Grading the draft immediately after it happens is something that happens every year. However, we think it's stupid. So instead of going through like a full draft grade or telling you which teams killed the draft, we're just going to be going over some of our individual favorite picks, because that is definitely something that we can do. And then also some picks that we just think were either massive reaches or just not good fits. I am Gabe with Franchise Tagged, and this is my co-host Elijah over here. And that is what we're going to be doing today, starting things off just outside the top 5 at, I think I do want to mention pick 7, J.C. Latham, who I think was a little bit overdrafted, but that pick is overshadowed a little bit. If you have anything to add there before.
Definitely, I think with Latham, out of nowhere on mock drafts, he was suddenly like top 5. He was going to the Chargers at 5 on a lot of them, and I was like, oh, clearly someone knows something about J.C. Latham. So, on my mock draft I put out on Twitter, I put J.C. Latham at 5. And, he didn't go at 5. They took Joe Alt, but still going at 7 was a lot higher than I feel anyone. Top 10 for J.C. Latham did seem out of nowhere in those last couple of days before the draft.
Yeah, I had seen him steadily rising a little bit from like the mid-20s to about maybe 12 to 15 is where I kind of felt like he could go.
Spot, yeah.
And I think that what tipped me off to it was somebody just said, you really think Jim Harbaugh, right? That's the Chargers guy?
Yeah.
You really think Jim Harbaugh is going to look at J.C. Latham and not want him on his team because he's a fan of the big guys, he's a fan of the people movers, and that is J.C. Latham. And so I think that was a lot of the hype, was thinking the Chargers may take him. But I thought the Chargers would have taken him if they ended up trading back with the Vikings, not at 5. And I think they did the right thing taking Alt at 5, I will say.
I'm glad, because you were also the one throughout our mock draft always consistently being like, we want them to take wide receiver, like making that argument.
Sorry. Let me rephrase. I think they should have taken receiver over Alt, but Alt over Latham is the better pick there. Gotcha. If they're taking O-line, take the generational guy, not the guy who
projects to be better. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, I think we can get into probably the most questionable part of the NFL draft day 1, day 2, and day 3. I think they got it out of the way early. Let's say that. Michael Penix to Atlanta at pick 8 is probably the worst thing to happen in Atlanta since the 28-3 Super Bowl, because that was the fans are taking some flack, I would say. There's no real good way to spin this.
Yeah, this is a reach, and not only is it a reach, it's a reach up at a position you didn't need.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're going to take a quarterback to sit behind Kirk Cousins and learn, you take the 21-year-old kid out of Michigan who didn't have a ton of experience throwing because his offense was predominantly run-focused.
Yeah.
Not the 24-year-old guy out of a pass-heavy offense with a bunch of elite weapons who is arguably one of the most pro-ready quarterback prospects, but has the least upside. So
yeah,
I think that's what I'm seeing around Penix, is that he's good to go, but he just doesn't have a lot of room to grow, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And another argument I've seen to justify is okay, well, it's a succession plan, and we want Penix so that way if Kirk gets injured, we have Penix ready to go, and that's a good situation. And then the other side of an argument is, okay, well, we expect to be good, so we're not going to have a top 10 pick to spend on a quarterback for that succession plan going forward. My issue with that is that I think Michael Penix would have been there, in the 20s. I think that Michael Penix, there's the need at Raiders camp, but Michael Penix's level of talent and player doesn't, to me, scream top 10 player. So you can get a caliber quarterback for the succession plan in 2 years with a 26th pick if you really need to, because and then you'll probably have a younger player available to you, not Penix, who's going to be 26 in 2 years. So
yeah, so I am probably going to make a video just on Michael Penix, so I won't get into it too much here, but I do think the Raiders would have taken him at 13 easily. And I think that the reason they took Brock Bowers is because they, as well as everybody else, fully expected Penix to be there at 13. And when he wasn't, they just went, all right, best pick available, best player available. And that was Bowers, because Bowers was extremely high on a lot of people's big boards, while maybe not being up there at positional value.
Yeah. My only retort to that is I don't think Broncos take Bo Nix if Penix is on the board. And
I still
then
think
he
Raiders
would go
take
to the Raiders
Penix.
to take Penix.
I still think they would have at 13. If he was there, I think they would have taken
But I'm saying the Raiders would then know okay, Penix and Bo Nix are on the board. They would feel a little safer possibly trading back or anything with that.
Yeah.
Trading up from the second round pick. But we can move off of Penix and get into the fact that 6 quarterbacks went top 12, as we mentioned with the Broncos taking Bo Nix there. The defense was not at all a focal point of this draft class. Everyone was harping on the offense, and still, first defensive player going off the board at 15, and it being Liatu Latu was very out of nowhere, not expected at all.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about the Colts draft when we get to day 2, just because I have a couple things to say about their kind of big names in their draft class. But yeah, 6 quarterbacks in the top 12. This quarterback class wasn't that good.
No.
Top 3, extremely good. JJ McCarthy, a good project with some good upside. He has the talent, he has the leadership, and he's young. So I think JJ is good. But I think taking JJ at around 12 to 15 is good value for him, and taking Penix and Nix in the early second is good value for them. Not all of them in the top 12, which is just absurd to me.
For sure.
And then, just to reiterate, the Raiders taking Bowers a year after spending a top 40 pick on Michael Mayer. 2 tight end sets, I get it, but you don't have
Brock won't attach to the line. That's my assumption with them taking the Mayer. He's a slot wide receiver for them now. It's not so much attachment to the line, Michael Mayer role.
But who's getting them the ball?
Yeah.
And I get it. You didn't have an option in the draft for that. So I guess there's not a better option because your biggest position of need was not there at 13. But I think the Raiders overall also just not taking a quarterback this draft class, not gambling on Spencer Rattler in the 4th, and not, gambling on Joe Milton in the 5th or Sam Hartman, who went undrafted, and then signed with the Commanders. I don't get it from the Raiders.
Mm-hmm. They believe in their guy. He was in the building already. They immediately started him. Oh, true. I forgot that they brought him in. But true.
Believe in Minshew Mania.
He did do really good with the Colts last year, so there is that bit of belief in there.
Yeah, I get it, but I still think you bring in some high upside competition for it. Maybe not the safer options like Hartman, but you bring in a Rattler or a Milton that have the higher end tools that just maybe aren't there mentally. You bring one of those in, because if they end up getting there mentally, you've got your quarterback of the future.
Yeah. And, I touched on it with the defense slipping and Liatu Latu being the first, but the Vikings going ahead and making that move up to get Dallas Turner as he was still available. Dallas Turner slipping to 17 was a steal for them to, go and scoop up. I don't exactly know why it happened, but he got there and they made sure that they added to the D-line despite the free agency spending on was it Gennard, the Texans outside linebacker?
But I also, I don't know. I think in a vacuum, Dallas Turner at pick 17 is good value.
Yeah.
But when you consider that the Vikings traded from the 2nd round to 23 and then traded up from 23 again to 17, how many picks they've invested in getting to 17, I think is a little bit more iffy on, just for reference, next year they have 3 picks.
Yeah.
They have their 1st and 2 5ths, and that's their only picks next year.
They kept moving up in this draft, and now they have very little. And it felt like everyone that did move up in this first round kind of overpaid throughout the whole night, outside of the Lions. Because, you saw the Lions straight up, and it was okay, this is a lot less than everything else we're seeing offered throughout this day. but it makes sense. It's 24. It's a 29 to 24. It was like a smaller jump. So it's like, okay, that seems like fair value. Everything else, though, it was like, okay, you're moving a couple of spots and you're giving up that much. Like, you must really be invested in this one player you're picking.
I think the other thing is the teams that were competing to move up may have been fewer when the Lions did.
Yeah.
Rather than, because towards the end of the first round, that's when you start to really want those like 28 to 32. You really want those picks if you're early in the second, because you get that fifth year option and it's typically not super expensive to move up. So a team like the Panthers moving up to get their guy at 32 kind of makes sense, even if it is just a pick swap, because the Patriots were apparently trying to trade up to 32 with the Bills, and the Bills said, nah. Which, whatever. I get it. It's a divisional thing, but
yeah,
I'm happy with how the Patriots draft turned out, but we'll get to that on day 2 and such. And then you've got here the DB slip, which was crazy. We had DBs going as high as what, 11, 12?
Yeah. If we didn't have the Broncos or Vikings targeting quarterback at those picks, because let's just say someone else got JJ Giants, then we kind of had them, okay, well, we want them to get defense, and then, Vikings with 23, we'll have them go get like the next tier quarterback. And yeah, no, DBs just slipped and slipped and slipped. And the fact that Terrion Arnold was available at 24 is why the Lions traded up, because Terrion Arnold was like, oh, he's going to be the first or second. Him and Q are right there.
Yeah.
And then Q's gone, but it's so much later than anyone expected. Like, very much it was like at the start of the 10s to the 20s. We expected like a handful, 2 to 3 DBs to go, and they didn't.
I think for our mocks, the reason, at least earlier on, why we were having them go to the Broncos and Vikings was because the Vikings hadn't gotten that second first-round pick yet when we were making a couple of the mocks.
But they also hadn't moved off of Kirk, so they didn't need...
Exactly, that's the thing. They hadn't moved off of Kirk, and Broncos hadn't moved off of Russ, so we were like, all right, so they've got their quarterbacks, they're not going to take one.
Yeah.
And we also, like, J.J. McCarthy kind of rose into that first round in general after the season, like well after the season, after the Super Bowl and everything, because we did our first, the one we called the way too early mock. Yeah. We did that, like, and we didn't even
mid-playoffs.
We didn't even think about JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't even consider him. And I think we had Penix, but not Nix go, or maybe we had both, but like, we just didn't have McCarthy in there at all, which was kind of nuts.
Yeah. In hindsight.
Just a funny thing to look back on.
Yeah, and then you can kick us off with the day 2 section here.
Yeah, day 2, we started off by, at least for me, I kind of just looked at the names that were there that I really did not expect to be there.
Yeah.
And there were three that really stood out. And it was Johnny Newton, because I'm a big fan, big Johnny Newton guy, If anybody's got an Illinois jersey, Johnny Newton, I'll take it. And then Adonai Mitchell and
really
Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah.
And Kool-Aid McKinstry, because you're really high on him as well.
Yeah.
So it was 3 guys that we consistently had in the mid to late first in our mocks. And like, that's heavy focus on the mids, not necessarily the lates.
Yeah, and we had Adonai Mitchell go as early as, was it 9 to the Bears? Like,
it was 11, or it was 13 after a trade back.
We had them trade back and take Adonai Mitchell.
12.
Like, yeah, Adonai Mitchell was, up there, and then there's the talk of what happened for him to slip, and then the GM of the Colts kind of defending that pick. So a lot of drama there.
I'm not a big Ballard fan.
Yeah, no, he has a very abrasive personality. So I don't fully believe that there's nothing there to the AD Mitchell talks, because I'm not saying they're perfect drafters, but the Chiefs, Bills, Panthers, Patriots, like one of those 4 teams, Ravens as well, they would have taken him if he didn't have concerns. If there were no concerns, if it was just, he's a great kid, he just, might not show a bunch of effort on run blocking plays, somebody's going to take him anyways, because who cares? Get another receiver to run block. But if there are so many reasons for him to be like less in the meetings, like to be not as involved, because it's a very schedule, like heavy process, the whole draft, the whole combine, all the meetings. So homie could have just been tired, blood sugar could have been low. Or it could have been like, someone told him, we're going to take you if you're available at this pick. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm going to be going there. I don't really need to try. I'll breeze through the rest of my meetings. Voila. The Colts who told him, oh, we're going to take you at 15, take him in the second round because they're like, oh,
Yeah.
that worked. Like, so many
Yeah.
reasons, so many things could have happened that, like, we can't know, that we will never know.
Yeah. And then the Kool-Aid slip you've got on here too. That was just kind of going along with the DB slip where there just weren't a ton taken.
Yeah.
And Kool-Aid is a victim of that. But the Saints got a dog in Kool-Aid McKinstry, and he'll learn to develop alongside Marshawn Lattimore. I know you're not super high on the Saints in general, but
I was prior to last season, and then they let me down. So now I'm not really buying into much. I
just think DB wise they're solid. Like Marshawn Lattimore, they did a really good job of developing, and I think they can do the same thing with the Kool-Aid, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, and then not to mention the Saints also got two really good players with their first two picks that we didn't expect them to have. Same kind of with like the Colts. Like the Colts, they got two really good players, and Latu, we would have Latu available at 15, but it's like we didn't see that as the direction they were going to go there. And then they get A.D. Mitchell in the second round, and then the Saints, same kind of thing. They get Talise Fuaga, and then they get Kool-Aid McKinstry, two guys that we both were kind of always having mocking up high, and these two teams get kind of some of our favorites together.
I did want to mention on the Colts draft, though, about Latu and A.D. Mitchell. They very well could make out of this draft with the two best players in it, or two of the best players in it, like with two top 5 players.
Yep.
They could do that. They could also walk out of here with two players who are out of the league in 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm worried about. If A.D. Mitchell's concerns are legit, and if Latu's health is, ever in question.
Again, yeah. It could be
risky.
Really bad. It could be like Raiders level of drafting, but hopefully it's not, because we want everyone to succeed, really, wherever they go.
Yeah.
And then you've got this last bullet point for day 2.
Yeah, so there's always talk in every draft that quarterbacks get taken about the quarterback's weapons and how strong they really were. And guys like Caleb Williams, who didn't have a weapon get drafted until the 7th round, is kind of telling of how good or how much that man had to carry. Guys like Drake May didn't have a weapon get drafted until the 6th, but Michael Penix at Washington, 3 weapons, 2 offensive tackles, all drafted within the first 4 rounds, really makes you think how much was he carried, because it was Odunze at 9, Polk at 37, and McMillan, I think it was 92. So yeah, guys all in the wide receivers for him, all in the first 3 rounds. It really makes you think about the level of talent that surrounded him, and if they'll be able to, or if he'll be able to keep up that success in the NFL, where sure, you've got some top end talent on every single team, but it's a little bit different when you're NFL versus college, and having that top talent all in college is can be worrying. But we've seen it. Hey, we've seen it work. Joe Burrow had some insane talent around him at LSU, and he's been extremely successful so far.
Yep. And then, okay, this one, day 3, this is kind of like a little victory lap for us in a way. Troy Franklin. Neither of us were very high on him. We had him in our last mock draft, and we literally said, neither of us are high on him, but everyone else seems to be, so maybe we're missing something. Clearly not. Clearly everyone else was missing something, and we're just that in tune with the NFL GM. We're really
clearly you need to follow us, because we know exactly what's going on all the time.
Yeah, we're clearly on the up and up, because he wasn't drafted until day 3, and he went to the Broncos to just reunite with his quarterback.
Another thing real quick that makes you think, if the Broncos didn't have his quarterback, would he have been drafted that early too?
Yeah, that's even my thought as well. Does he go there if Bo Nix isn't a starting quarterback for them? He probably wouldn't have that much pull unless they're like, all right, yeah, we're going to have you be our starter. If it was a Michael Penix situation, I'm not sure they're going to go be like, oh yeah, you're our backup, but we'll go get your college wide receiver with this pick. We have so few of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you've got here Spencer Rattler, which I agree. I like where he went, which was somewhere with a QB solution for now. So he's not forced into a starting role where he's not ready for, but also a place where if he performs well, he can definitely take that starting job. It's not secure in Derek Carr's grasp at all.
Yeah, it's not really. Let's say this is how you draft a succession plan. All right, Atlanta, you don't spend this premium capital for the succession plan, because Spencer Rattler couldn't have that upside to be, that bridge quarterback when the Carr era is ending. He could have the higher upside of actually being the solution after the fact, but you're not spending this premium capital with him. He's a day 3 quarterback pickup, and he's gonna possibly make a difference. I'm still confused about it,
I was just going to start talking about the Penix pick again. And then I was like, we said we wouldn't, we said we wouldn't.
It's hard not to. Yeah.
It is hard. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, I like the place he wound up. And I think that, last thing I'll say about Penix, about the Falcons. I'm bragging on the Falcons, not on Michael Penix, just so we're clear.
Michael Penix didn't choose this. All right. He didn't choose to be this giant question mark of the draft. The Atlanta Falcons have made some questionable decisions. That's all.
I think if the Falcons went ahead and took Rattler in the 4th or 5th, great pickup. You have Kirk's successor. He can learn from Kirk. He can figure out how to be that humble guy from the Midwest and not this flashy high school reality star.
He'll learn to work at Kohl's. Have his retirement plan set up, his 401k.
His summer internships at Kohl's, yeah. And then the last quarterback that got drafted not the last quarterback that got drafted. There were a couple more, all right? We'll actually talk about Jordan Travis first, which I think is another really interesting landing spot. This, again, is a succession plan. Injury-prone quarterback, backed up by a young guy who fell a little bit because of injury and because of some question marks. And there we go. We've got success. And then also shout out Quantez Stiggers. Actual shout out, because he is a CFL guy that is an absolute baller that just didn't get coverage because he didn't play college football at all.
Yeah.
Didn't play a single down of it. It was just Canadian Football League, drafted to the NFL. That's sick. And I you're a division rival, but I'm And then the last quarterback that we're going to talk about, my very own Joe Milton, baby. Let's go. We love him. I wanted him in the pre-draft process. I don't think I ever said it in a video, but I know I told you. I was like, I want him to go to the Dolphins. I want him just one game,
chuck it up,
20 seconds left,
Tyreek Hill
from the 20-yard line, pull Tua, throw in Joe Milton, Hail Mary, you're down, you need a touchdown, put in Joe Milton, he's going to get it to the end zone from there. And I think that his arm talent is crazier than literally anybody we have ever seen enter the league. I don't think it's absurd to say that. It's his processing and his accuracy that's an issue, but the strength is there. The touch is there. It's the being the quarterback that's not there, unfortunately. But I do hope that we do something with him. I don't think we would have drafted him if we didn't have a plan for utilizing multiple quarterbacks, or at least utilizing his unique talents, because whatever way you put it, he has extremely unique talents. And if he can figure things out, he's got insane upside.
Yeah. And I say we take a break from covering your division rivals and we go ahead and cover one of mine. The Bears went ahead and they drafted a 26-year-old punter in the 4th round, which might get memed a little bit, but honestly, Iowa punter, he's got those punts. He's got all the tape you need on him. I honestly think that this is a pretty good pickup for them, all things considered.
I don't know if you looked at any of his tape. I don't know if you'd be watching any punter tape, but like after the draft, I don't know if you saw any highlights after the draft. Dude's legit.
Yeah,
dude is extremely good at punting.
Iowa didn't have an offense for a good long while now, and so he gets a lot of those reps to put on tape, more so than most punters do.
Yeah, his directional punting was really good. Though, like he was called punt god this draft cycle, and there's always one of them. Ariza a couple of years back, and then now Torrey Taylor, I think is his name.
Yep.
But we can move off of the Bears punter and talk about, this is a name that didn't ever have any hype, but I watched his combine and I was like, oh, he's going to be legit. And that's Isaac Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big running back that moves so damn fast. And he went to the 49ers. So whatever he does, he's going to be successful. Staying with the running backs, moving back to my division. Thank you very much. We're going to talk about Jalen Wright. Somehow the Dolphins added more speed without drafting Xavier Worthy. And last year they took Devon Achane, sorry. Didn't mean to mispronounce his name. And he was kind of this, okay running back, but damn, he's fast. And that's basically what Jalen Wright is too. But he played in the Tennessee offense, which is much more passing focused, and he still made a name for himself. So I think that he's going to be a nice complement to Achane, and they'll be rotating in and out so that they can both be at full stamina, full speed every single play. Yeah. And I think that'll be really fun to see.
Yeah, I think another thing is with Achane's rookie year, he wasn't fully healthy for it all. So they're kind of taking like, all right, well, here's our Achane replacement for when Achane's hurt. And, we can also cycle you too because Raheem Morris is getting up there in terms of NFL running back years. And are you frozen?
Am I Falcons head coach?
Did I just say Raheem Morris and not Raheem Mostert? Okay.
Yeah, you did.
My bad.
Raheem Morris is getting up there for running back years.
Yeah.
You're not lying.
I ain't wrong there.
I'm not cutting any of this out.
Yeah, I figured you were.
The Ravens.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the Ravens killed the 4th round. This is two guys that kind of had those like late day 1, probably closer to early day 2 grades, and they took them on day 3. And that's TJ Tampa and Tez Walker. And both of them just had their question marks all around them.
Yeah.
Tez Walker was one trick pony and not immensely good at it.
It wasn't a great trick,
it was kind of mediocre, like a 6 out of 10 trick. Yeah. And that's all he could do. I was really disappointed ultimately.
Yeah, he just kind of had me pick a card, and then I was like, okay. And then I saw the sleight of hand, and I was like, this isn't that great.
I also think it's really funny that when the Patriots drafted Javon Baker, they definitely asked Drake May who he wanted, and Drake May said not Tez Walker because Tez went 4 picks later, or like a few picks later. But I still think the Ravens got some solid value getting him in the 4th round. And then TJ Tampa as well was somebody who I never really looked into, but was placed around that early 2nd value on PFF's big board. And so just taking 2 of those guys in the 4th round, if they work out, if they end up being that kind of late 1st, early 2nd talent, I think that the Ravens could very well have killed this draft.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last point we have for day 3, and I'm going to get a little broader than just day 3 because of the team I'm talking about, but the Chargers, they went ahead and added Jerry Rice's own son and Harbaugh's own Cornelius Johnson to their wide receiver core. And that's just their day 3 picks. They got Joe Alt, and then they added so many weapons to that room for the wide receiver, which was so lacking, as you mentioned. I think that the additions of Cornelius Johnson and is it Brandon? Brendan. I was like, I was between those two, but Brendan Rice
and Ladd McConkey
at the start of the 2nd round. These are great additions because all of them have different little niches. Like Ladd McConkey is a great pick for them. Joe Alt, great pick for them. I think if you take okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a higher Malik Neighbors, and then we're going to take a tackle in the 2nd. Tackles flew off the board so quick through all of the 1st round that there's really not going to be a great. Was Jordan Morgan even available at that pick? I think
no, but Kingsley Sumai. Yeah. Man, I just every time I think of his name, I think of Jamal Charles, and I just yeah. But he was there till the end of the of the 2nd, so they could have taken him. I wanted the Patriots to get him so bad. If he was trending towards being there in the 3rd, and I was like, but then they could.
Yeah, but I think that Joe Alt and all of these wide receivers is a better outcome than Malik Neighbors and that possible next best tackle there, because Joe Alt's just the generational guy.
I will say Brendan Rice fell a lot. I definitely thought he was going to be a 4th or 5th guy, not a 7th. I think that's kind of all we have for the stories of the draft, if you will. But there are 3 drafts that we wanted to actually kind of go more in depth and talk about, and that is your Chiefs and Lions and my Patriots.
Yep. I'll kick us off first with the Chiefs here. The, big head scratcher, I guess, was everyone ragging on Buffalo for letting the Chiefs go ahead and move up to get Xavier Worthy. It's all just draft picks at the end of the day. It's they're finding value, and if they clearly didn't have Xavier Worthy as one of their top wide receivers to target there, then there's no reason that they would believe, like, okay, do we know that the Chiefs are going to go wide receiver? No, they're just going to make the trade off of value. So leaving that behind, Xavier Worthy is a great, it's what we've been missing the past couple of years without Tyreek Hill. He's coming back. They are revitalizing the wide receiver core. They are going to be clearly trying to take the top off more. And he's already an improvement from MVS.
Damn.
I think, as you were stating that you saw someone kind of trending to that 3rd round, I think Kingsley, I'm not saying his last name, is a great pickup at that, right around that value of he's kind of looking like a steal being this far down. Just, by a few 10 picks, but, still that kind of steal range. And then I'm not going to touch on all of the players drafted. I think that Jaden Hicks was definitely one that I didn't expect to be available in the 4th round. I think Jaden Hicks was probably one of my, okay, when you're looking at the safeties, it's a thin draft class, but he's certainly up there. And considering that the safety room hasn't been super strong since Tyron left, any addition there was a welcome addition. And, you consider that they also kind of just added to the trenches, kind of already a strength, but they're just getting richer at this point with the additions in the day 3 round. They kind of got away with a really good draft at the top of it. Day 3 guys are always going to be question marks entering the league, but I'm pretty happy with what they drafted and when they drafted them. The value, I think, is the main point there.
Yeah, just to get back to the trade with the Bills, I think they would have told the Bills who they're drafting, or the Bills wouldn't have traded with them, because if the Bills have somebody on their board, they want to know, hey, this guy's safe. So, Chiefs, who are you trading up for? And if we don't like that name, we just won't trade up with you. Mm-hmm. And if the Chiefs said, hey, we want Xavier Worthy, and the Bills were like, okay, well, we're drafting Keon Coleman. That's who we want. So, yeah, give us your picks and take Xavier Worthy, and we'll move back. And then the same thing probably happened with the Panthers, who moved up, and they were like, we just really want to securely get. And the Patriots were also trying to move up for either Leggett or Coleman. That was the rumor that Schefter said. So, but yeah, I think that I did say that the Chiefs trading with the Bills is the last thing I expected to happen, but I get it. I don't think it's anything bad. I don't think it's the Bills conceding that the Chiefs are the better team or anything like that.
Yeah. It's not as big a deal as everyone made it to be.
No. And then just to touch on the Patriots draft, I won't give anybody any grades, and I understand that there may have been a couple reaches here and there, but Drake May was a great pick, and I'm so glad we got him. The relief from you. You actually ended up turning in the card and it's saying Drake May. I could just feel it through the phone screen. Yeah. So I'm not a hater on Jaden Daniels. I'm not a hater on JJ McCarthy. If we had taken any quarterback top, at number 3, I'm happy. But Drake May was absolutely the top of my list. Caleb Williams, number 1, obviously, but he's not making it to 3. So Drake May was definitely second best. Not necessarily because I think he is right now immediately better than Jaden Daniels, but because he's only 21 and he has, I think, better arm talent than Daniels and just better potential. Jaden Daniels took 5 years in college to show a breakout year, and that breakout year happened when he was surrounded with a bunch of talent, which Drake May was never surrounded with a bunch of talent. Mm-hmm. So he won't be, going into any different situation in New England where there is a current void of talent. And then the Jalen Polk pick was seen as a bit of a reach, but the Patriots didn't need an A.D. Mitchell. They didn't need a Troy Franklin. They needed an X. They needed a big receiver who can go up and get it, and somebody whose biggest point isn't that they're shifty and speedy. And Polk has game speed, not track speed, so his 40 wasn't great, but he has decent route running, extremely good hands at the catch point, and he is a hands catcher, kind of like George Pickens is, where you don't see it from every receiver. A lot of receivers will bring the ball into their body, or they'll catch it with their wrists, or like however they catch it. He will go up and get it with his hands, which is something that's really cool to see when you don't see it from everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit high on Polk. And then the other thing that I just like, I don't have a ton else to say. Jaheim Bell was great value in the 7th because he's a solid tight end that I'm excited to have on the roster. And the fact that I recognize the names of a majority of our draft picks is just completely foreign to me. That's never happened before in my 21 years of living on this earth.
You didn't hear any Cole Stranges that you were like, who the hell?
I mean, yeah, Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, I had never heard of them, and Marcellus Dial, but I also wasn't super like deep in this class.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't know everybody's name. I didn't know the names of the top 100 people.
Yeah.
So the fact that I obviously I knew who Drake May was. I knew who Jalen Polk was. I knew who Javon Baker was. I knew who Joe Milton was. And I knew who Jaheim Bell was. And the other guys I've at least heard a little bit about. Layden Robinson, not as much, but Marcellus Dial, I do remember seeing a couple things about him. And then Caden Wallace, I remember seeing something about the other tackle from Penn State. And Olu was obviously the first tackle from Penn State. So
yeah. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and transition to this kind of last pick-by-pick dive of the draft classes we really pay attention to, and that's the Lions. I think the trade-up and the getting of Terrion Arnold, while, I was obviously rooting for Kool-Aid we got a different Alabama DB, and his energy when he walked out to the stage kind of immediately alleviated any, what would the term be? Just regret of we got the wrong Bama guy. No, he clearly is like meant to be a Detroit Lion with just the energy he brought and how he interviewed after the game or after the draft. And then adding double dipping in that second round, getting Ennis Rakestraw, another guy that through our mocks and through what we had seen was kind of that early second projection, and then falling to the late second just because he's a DB. We got two really we are added to our DB room already because it was so weak after the departures. But now we have a super competitive DB room that's just going to be like battling iron sharpens iron kind of mentality against each other. And then, we had after that pretty interesting draft picks with one of the draft picks coming again through that international program of never touched a football, never played a snap of football, but we're drafting him to the NFL. I think that one was, I don't know how to say his name. I think it was Giovanni something. I can't remember precisely, but Giovanni Manu, I believe, was the pick that is kind of projecting O-line, trying to do the Jordan Mailata thing. And then Sion Vaki, who's like a pure special team, both sides of the ball kind of guy that I would like to see him in the safety room, but we also have really good safeties, so it's going to just kind of be a play him wherever we want kind of guy.
Marcus Jones type situation.
Yeah. And then my last one I kind of want to go over is the Christian Mahogany, because as soon as Christian Mahogany was drafted, I saw so many things saying like, oh yeah, no, we had him ranked as a third rounder. Like, it's kind of those value picks that they're getting. And while we don't know what Giovanni is going to do, and while we don't know what Sion is going to do in the NFL, because one never touched a football and the other has played every side of the game, I think that there's a lot of question marks on what they will become, but pure draft value on where people expected these players to go, what people's opinions of them were, I'm pretty high on it. Terrion and Ennis were the only ones I had a concrete opinion on heading into the draft, and I'm very happy that we got both of them to shore up the DBs.
If we had taken Christian Mahogany instead of Layden Robinson, I would have known every single name in the draft class. I'll put it that way, because I had heard of Mahogany. I knew he was pretty highly regarded, and the fact that we didn't take him is kind of pissing me off right now. But, it is what it is. I'm pretty happy with the draft class. And then the last thing that I actually want to say about the Patriots draft, I forgot to say it. We drafted positions that we needed. That is not, again, something we haven't done. So I'm just elated that we tried. Even if they're all busts, even if they all suck, we tried. We gave it a shot. And that's more than I can say about the Patriots in the past 5-10 years.
Yeah. Bill Belichick did you no favors there, huh?
Bill, I love you. Great defenses. You put nobodies on the defense and they became Pro Bowlers. And I appreciate you endlessly for that. But you did not do that on offense because you could not do that on offense. So, yeah.
Go ahead and close this out.
Yeah. That's all, folks. That's all we got for you today. Let us know your thoughts, your favorite picks, your least favorite picks. Some early grades, if you will, just teams that you liked the drafts of, not necessarily because the players are going to be great, because we don't know. They could all suck. Every single player in this draft could just suck. Could be terrible. Worst draft in history. But definitely let us know who you thought was the biggest shock at the draft outside of Penix.
Because we harped on him enough.
Yes, we did. And with that, deuces.